come with Binderanovsky. Actually, I did not plan to post this dream, though it's anyway only the fourth dream I shared in 2024. But more due to the two unpleasant characters, I felt to bring it up on the table. But note, I don't have an interpretation for it. Maybe someone comes up with something, or just let the scene speak for itself. So the dream came in the night, or to the first of the 10th month in 2024 of the secular calendar. I don't know the time I dreamed that, but labeled it as conveniently 3:33 a.m. As you see in the headlines, two names, Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab. Though Gates is clearly the main player and Schwab don't give a lot of attention. And for information, I have not watched anything about these two guys, probably for at least a year or longer, even before I sailed out of the Canary in the coal mine island. And even not after I received this dream, I looked up anything about them, enough to spend time to create this video. There's no reason for me to stare at diabolic inspired people, so I have no clue what these guys are currently up for. But interestingly enough, I received a word with something mentioned about Gates a few days before I had the dream, titled Warning to the War Ministers on the 28th of the 9th month, and I thought, could it be there's a connection somehow? All we know, they're extremely wicked, not as much as the devil himself, but they surely get their order from the pit of hell, so there's no other way to explain their actions. Anyway, I try to explain the dream as best as possible, hopefully not too clumsy, not too long though. There are some measurements in the dream, and if you're not familiar with the metric system, there are plenty of converters available for whatever measurement you prefer. Might be a bit stretchy, but I recommend to read the transcript to get a better picture. Going over it again on your own, especially if you sense Abba wants to give you an interpretation. As usual, I write my dreams mainly in present tense, as if it happens right now. And so with this the same, though it contains elements of the past. But another intro, I go now into it. I am in the house where I grew up, which is a tiny village in Germany. And there I am in the room where I stayed in real life, with a royal blue velour carpet floor, two windows to the west, the door to the east, and the size is about 30 square meters. So the length from north to south or south to north are roughly 8 meters, and east to west about 4 meters. So the windows and doors are on the longer side. The windows are about 3 meters away from the north, and the one from the north, the other from the south, and their size, each of them identical, is about 1.2 by 1.2 meters. So the east has diagonal wooden panels, light wood, either fir or pine. All the setting with the carpet reflects the years when I lived there from around 1990 till 2006. There's also a table with a computer and 2 screens there, not the original settings, and a chair at a table facing towards the north side. The table sits slightly to the east, about, let's say, 1 meter away from the northern wall, but parallel to it. So that's the description now of the room itself. So then at one point, Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab want to come into the room, and both standing by the door, still outside, which is inside the house, but outside the room. I tell them, no, I don't let you in. I have not invited you. I heard someone, an unknown voice from somewhere, saying they were allowed by someone else to stay here for a night or two. But I insist not to let them in, because it's my private property, and no one have asked me if I would allow them to stay. But then Bill Gates, pressed in by force. And what I see, it's not the Bill Gates with the cool smirk on his face that he's usually presented during interviews, maybe most anyway staged. But somehow I know in the dream, if he does not get what he wants, he starts to become very aggressive and his countenance changed into a very evil look, completely different. Somehow it's way worse than a 2-year-old who doesn't get the candy. So Gates will not give up until he gets what he wants. And the longer it takes, the more violent and aggressive he becomes and the more his face changes. After he pressed in, could manage to go in, Klaus Schwab walks in. Relatively easy, because I was fighting against Gates. I don't know who did it, but someone must have gone into the room without my knowledge and permission and prepared 2 beds by the wall facing to the west. One of them for Gates, which is more towards the north, a bit to the right of the right window, and the other on the south for Klaus Schwab, a bit left of the left window. So when looking from the door towards west. The sheets are some bright color, whitish cream or slightly pinkish, I would say. As I can't avoid them to stay here, or since they're already in, I tell them I will make many noises during the night, doing computer work, possibly music recording and whatever. But it appears they completely ignore it. They actually ignore all my words. Then I'm thinking, what computer work can I do in their presence? And especially with Bill Gates, it feels to me, also as his bed is very close by to the computer, he will surely listen and eventually try to sneak into the computer in some ways. So possibly it's better not to turn it on at all and do something to prevent that Gates himself can turn it on. I don't know how, maybe took the cables away. However, the battle continues as I still try to expel them from my private sphere. While Gates fights in the front directly against me, Klaus Schwab stays the whole time in the background. Whatever he's doing, I don't know. And he did not say a single word the entire time, the whole dream, not one word. And Gates starts actually also partially to occupy my desk, or the desk where the computer sits. So the more I don't go on computer work. And as I look, I see there a pile of credit cards. And Gates himself as well holds a couple more in his hands. I try to hold him and check if everything he's doing is legal or legitimate. And it turns out, again, into a big physical fight. So at least I try to keep him in the room while I call at the same time someone for further investigations on his activities. I don't know how I do it, but somehow I can manage to call someone. Then he runs towards the door, which I manage to shut before he reaches it. But then, to my surprise, he suddenly sneaks through the gap at the bottom of the door, which is only about 0.5 centimeter. That little tiny or almost no space between the floor and the bottom of the door. So I can't see Klaus Schwab anywhere in the room. Maybe he escaped while the door was still open, so I don't know. But I was really puzzled how Gates was able to squeeze that way out. Almost like, we know some characters in Disney cartoons, when they display some sort of ghost or whatever entity, how they sneak through tiny gaps. Anyway, I go straight to the desk and look for the credit cards that are stuck up there, which are still there, except the ones in his hands, maybe 5 or so, I don't know how many. I scan roughly through them, and I see each of them appear to be from a different bank, most of them in blue color with some different, but most in blue, but with different emblems. Altogether about 30 cards. I don't look at the card numbers, because they are long, but I noticed each card has a different name, both male and female names. Though I have not looked through all of them in detail, maybe half of them, but it clearly appears to me very fishy, and I am questioning what it is and what this guy is doing, beside all the known wicked things. While I'm still thinking what to do and whom to invite for further investigations, I wake up. For the further investigations, I consider not to call the police, FBI, or those type of organizations, because I sense in the dream they don't do anything or have been bought to sweep it under the rug. So I wake up with these thoughts. Okay, so for the dream, as mentioned, maybe you go again through it, reading the transcript. I cannot say if there is a connection to the mentioned prophecy. If you get something, feel free to share, but don't fight against each other about possible interpretation and this is right and this is wrong and blah, blah, blah. Because dreams can sometimes have several meanings or interpretations, and all of them can be right, all of them can be wrong. So just, if you get something, just feel free to share. All right, so far, wish you loads of blessings, and Adonai be with you. Shalom, shalom.